is an army, is a family. And whenever you are doing a construction, you are going to have building blocks. You're going to have, if it's a temple of God in those days, you have stones. The Bible said we are the living stones that God is using to construct his house. But you see, there is a skill. That's why Paul calls himself a wise master builder. There is a skill involved in building. One of those essential skills of being a wise master builder is knowing that bringing blocks and stones and you start raising them. And especially in some places where you're building skyscrapers or you're building high-rise building, you start putting them, put block on top of the block. You still don't have a house. What you have created is something that will collapse on people. Just because you gathered ministers doesn't mean you have a ministry going. You could have actually set up that ministry for a fall. Sometimes it's better to run alone to have people that don't understand team playing, that don't understand covenant. There is something that you put between blocks and blocks to hold them together. We use cement. But when they built the Tower of Babel, Genesis 15, talked about those people that built it, that they are like one man, they had one language. But even the building they were building did not fall. It kept going until God saw that these guys meant business. This thing is going to reach heaven. And he had to do something to stop them. What they held one block, what they used to join block with block, actually, it wasn't block. What did they make? Bricks. It was mortar. Mortar. That is what holds the building. You can be gathering people, but there is no mortar between them. That church will still collapse. On the day Satan will test it. That mortar is what is called covenant. That mortar is what is called the Father-Son order. Not every preacher is a builder. And I'm going to advise those of you, especially many of you, there are a lot of bishops, a lot of general overseers here. Those of you who, you must understand the building model, which is God's model. Not every preacher is a builder. Some of them are scatterers. They will leave more problem for you after coming. And once you discern them, stop bringing them. Jesus said, I gather. Some other people are scattering. He said, anyone that is not building with me is scattering. Because what we are looking for is for the team to win. When the team wins, we have won. God's purpose is realized. We have all won. Not for you to come up with your... And they are great Americans. They've gone around the world, helped. T.L. Osborne came here, lived in Kenya, facilitated this move, raised Papa Idahosa here for us. Great players, great coaches, great mentors. We have had British people like Pa Elty who came here, literally died here, buried here. Let me give you 4 subjects. You see the subjects of covenant. Until you understand it, you know it. The building you're building has nothing to hold it. It's like if you're doing a metal building, that's with aluminum or steel, you need bolts. You don't bring iron and just put them. It is going to fall and kill people. You see, in building marriage, that's why God brought covenant. Because of the day, something will come up. And because of one crisis, 2 of you will want to tear the whole thing apart and forget there are children behind you. He built it on covenant. God builds with revelation, When people lack knowledge, they are a problem in God's system. They will be the ones Satan will use to cause problem. When people are deceived, they are a problem. Revelation and understanding is what God builds with. If I want to make it in a practical way, you want to build to last, build with the word. Teach, 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 teach. This is construction. Anywhere you see teaching going on, that's a construction site. In nation building, that's why we have education. It's called human capital development. That's where you build capacity. That's how you build human beings. That's how you build leaders. That's how you build the people, the doctors in a society. That's how you build the pilots. School, training, teaching, mentoring, and all of that. If you want to build, you build with the word. You see, miracles are the attraction, marketing. They are not building. So some ministries run on prayer, miracle services year to year. You are not going anywhere. The day of trial, you will vanish. Because where there is no knowledge and understanding, there is no resistance against Satan. So God builds with revelation. Second thing, he builds with relationship. What type of relationship? Covenant relationships. Where there is no covenant, even the relationship is fragile. Can you imagine like marriage? People still fragment marriage even after oath. So that's why he brought those 12 men and brought blood and made all of them drink it and gave them his flesh to eat. And with those 12 men, he laid the foundation of the church. This is why we serve communion. It's our own blood drinking. You don't see witches fighting in the public. You don't see Ogbueli people fighting in the public. You don't see Rosicrucian fighting in the public. You don't see the deep states fighting in the public. They have something that holds them. It's covenant. This is Satan's kingdom. He copied it from God. But you see believers fighting each other, messing up the whole thing. It's because we have not taught them covenant and we have not understood the power of that level of relationship. That's why people betray each other, do all sorts of things. The church should be the safest place to belong to. It's a city of refuge. It's that place. Enemy has been pursuing you. You run there. You find security. You find a family. And be careful of any minister or anybody who tells you last place he was, how the place collapsed, then he comes to you. Be careful of such people. They have come to another place to destroy. Once they destroy, they escape again, look for another place. You remember somebody who came to David, I brought you Saul's head. God builds through covenants. The third is that he builds generationally to make sure that whatever he's building will continue. So he uses gene and genealogy to build. And that's where the father-son order comes in. Fatherless generation, forget about it. They will never return from the battlefield. Anytime that generational thing is interfered with, disaster happens. Look at what the spirit of Elijah does. And that's the spirit that prepares the way anytime the Lord is going to come. Before his first coming, that spirit of Elijah functioned through John the Baptist. Now, his second coming is going to function again. What is one of his functions? To turn the heart of the fathers to the son and the sons to the father, lest I smite the earth with a curse. Because disaster follows wherever that thing is tampered with. If we want to see the last days move of God, this is one of the things we need to teach like this to bring about that healing. Because it's one of the relationships the enemy attacks. Let me tell you, there are trials of life. Jesus was tested in his flesh with the loss of the flesh, like tests that has to do with women, opposite sex. There are tests that has to do with possession, greed, the lust of the eyes. There are tests that has to do with your pride and ego. Tests that has to do with power and so on. But let me tell you, some of the worst tests, some of the toughest tests has to do with relationships. Relationships. That we are, in order to stop, what are we talking about? How do you make a revival go all the way till he has accomplished his goal? How do you cause a movement that God has started go all the way till he has accomplished God's goal? Because there are areas Satan will come to try to kill it, to stop a revival, or to stop a movement, or even to stop a church that is delivering God's purpose. He will use all the other things, but one of the toughest is relationships. And in relationship tests, 4 are the toughest. It was when I had to face 1 or 2 of that I now got to understand some of the things I've been reading in the Bible. The first is test with your father. Every child will face that. You saw that thing Jesus was facing at Gethsemane. He can decide to rebel at that day. But the next test is test with your son. Because watch, the same Jesus faced problem with Judas and later with the same Peter that said, you are Christ. Peter denied him. Judas betrayed him. Then Thomas didn't believe in everything he has been teaching. You don't know what a test with your son. And some, like people like daddy who are elderly, who have raised children up to they are married, can tell you the journey, what it means to raise children all the way. The headache, certain stage of their life when they will give you. So, fathers too face that. In heaven, the angels are called the sons of God. One day, God found himself facing some. The third is test with your spouse. Test with your spouse. And when tests come, don't bolt. That's why a lot of people, marriages become sweeter after you overcome a season of trial. A higher level of unity, a higher level of a depth of understanding, a depth of bond comes after that. But when that exam season comes, that's when people, they vanish. Then they think the grass is greener on the other side until you get there. If anything is green there, it's because somebody has been watering it. Water the one on your own side. Yeah, you want to clap where? And the fourth is test with your brothers. My God. So if you watch Abraham, he had serious tests with his father. He was born in a family. Terah is the man's name, but he was an idol worshiper. So when Abraham had the revelation of Jehovah and began to preach that bring the founder of monotheism after the flood, the worship of one God is Abraham. The world became polytheistic, worshiping Nimrod, and some of these people corrupted the whole world, idolatry everywhere. So he came against the culture. He came against his family religion. He came against, and it was a big problem. And at the conclusion of it, God had to tell him, leave your father's house and all that, so you can nurture this thing. If he mismanages, because even when you are born again, your father is not born again, it doesn't authorize you to dishonor him. You are not to go to idolatry, you are not to follow the wrong things, but you must not touch the subject of honor. Even if your mom is a witch, honor her as your mom. Forget about her being a witch. Actually, honor is what will protect you from her witchcraft. Dishonor is what will now cause the witchcraft to affect you. That's what a lot of you don't know. You say, my mom is into diabolic things, then you start misbehaving. Then that's where you open yourself for attacks. So Abraham came out, passed that initial test. Later, he's facing tests with Sarah. There are three major problems with that woman that he loved and married. First test, no child, barrenness. He survives that. Second test, the woman provides an alternative wife, a surrogate wife, and a child comes out of that. And when Abraham was now settling, because he has loved this boy, he's his only son, Sarah gives birth now. And now she has given birth. The quantas, the quarrels between two women, issues, jealousy, envy with either. She carries the problem to Abraham. Send her away. And her son. I can't send her away. The boy is my son. It's even my first son to start with. And now he has started eating the new ogusi soup. He's also not willing to send the woman away. You are the one that brought her. So we are two in this house. We now have two boys, two wives. Nobody's going anywhere. It was God that intervened in that matter. It was God that intervened in it and said, listen to Sarah. Because in this issue, the covenant I made, I told you before that you're going to have a seed for your own Lord. And the covenant will be through Isaac. But don't make any mistake. God also blessed Ishmael. Look at the wealth in the Arab world today. God also blessed Ishmael because it was his seed. So it wasn't a very smooth time in that family. You brought the suggestion. Now you are fighting me over it. Now later, the toughest test Abraham had to go through when a king hijacked his wife. And the reason is because in the culture, they find a pretty woman, they will kill the man and take the woman. And to protect himself, two of them agreed to tell a lie. A very good woman too, because some women, you travel abroad, they will say you out. Is that not what a lot of them are doing outside? Once they get to America, bring police and kick the man out. They went abroad. She was ready to protect her husband, even in the face of that kind of situation. The guy cried to God in his state. And God intervened again. If you know what it means, if you face any of these tests, barrenness, you're not fighting with another man over you. For many people, that's the end of that marriage. You will go and find something else. Even if you come back, you will say, you have not finished saying what happened. His mind will never be at rest. Then, later, another test with his sons. God said, let Ishmael go. Lord, I only have 2, not 3. You said send one away. He obeyed. Later, the only one left, you said go and sacrifice him on the altar. And then after he passed all those tests, one of the one that so shook me is that Lot that he took along with him, And now they got to Egypt, Lot has become big too. Lot became rich. Genesis 13 said the man became very rich. Abraham became very rich. He forgot who, and the cattle started fighting, quarrels everywhere. But guess what Abraham did? He called him, he said, we are brothers. We shouldn't, this kind of thing should not be. There is a way to solve these problems. Any direction you want to go south, I'll go north. If you take east, I'll go west. Take first. The younger one took first, though. This guy was not afraid, though. And he looked and saw the what they call the Fertile Crescent, is the land of Sodom, Gomorrah, and all the Zoar and the rest of them. I've been there. They have the Dead Sea there, so you have water supply. River Jordan flows down there, so it's very fertile for planting all kinds of things. So he took that part. But the moment he left, God now came to Abraham and said, look northward, look southward, eastward, westward. He didn't even consider where Lot was. He said, look everywhere, as far as your eyes have seen. Because the covenant, that's the one that operated according to the covenant. The thing we have degenerated into fight. You can imagine the kind of fight still going on between the Ishmaelites and the Jews. Another fight we have started between Lot and his descendant, and the man managed it well. Even when you have to separate, if something reaches to that point, because amputation is the last stage in treatment, whether it is marriage or relation, separate peacefully, knowing, don't close doors, knowing that you might need that relationship again. Is it not one day they captured Lot? The same Abraham raised his army to go and rescue him. There are three people you don't fight. Number one, you don't fight your father. You do that, you destroy your future. You remove foundation from under you. You collapse. The building, what you did is a tree cut down its own root. You called your root useless, so you cut it down, expecting to stand. Fathers have foundations. Number two, you don't fight your own son, because your son is your future. Is your succession. So somebody said to me, what if a son now insults his father and all that? I said, there is something God put in your mouth that would discipline his future. Use it. It's in your mouth. You don't need to fight him. Because I see that. Can you imagine Lucifer, sons of God? Lucifer started whatever. And then when you open your Bible, this is how the story goes. And Lucifer and the father were fighting. And Lucifer carried the father one leg. But the father, being the Almighty, put his leg down and overpowered Lucifer. How much respect will you have for God? There are three people you don't fight. You don't fight your father. You don't fight your son. And you don't fight covenant brothers. Anybody that does that has created disaster. You remember when the Gibeonites made covenant with the children of Israel? And later they found out that they were their neighbors. The people mobilized to go. Joshua said, if you try, disaster will fall on us. Of course, many years after, one zealous king in the name that he was without understanding, Saul, went and killed them. The rainfall was suspended in Israel for 3 years. It even affected David, that was a good man. That was a covenant man. Until they went to call them to now appease and beg them. And the Gibeonites said, give us the heads of 6 people. We want the people who killed our people. And they found descendants of Saul, brought 6 of them. They hanged them. Death by hanging. The moment they hanged, the rain fell on Israel. See all these things that is going on in the body of Christ. If you see, that's why there's a lot of premature death. Oh, the New Testament wrote about not discerning the Lord's body. You eat communion with people. You're in covenant relationship with them. You steal whatever. He said that's why many die prematurely. That's why many are weak. That's why many are sick. Cancer start one thing. Yet with all the protection that the covenant, if you sin against the covenant destroys you. A lot is going on. And one of the worst things is a lot of young people in their 30s, in their 40s, And yet the other ones are not asking what is killing them. Are dying. They are dying in the church. They are dying. Where is the covenant? When did it become weak? It's not weak. People are doing violence against the covenant. So, one of those super glues that every pastor, every builder must learn to teach every now and then is the subject of love. It's not something you say they heard. You have to be servicing it. You have to be serving it. Communion is one of the best opportunities to service the covenant between us and God and between us and one another. Because Satan is after relationships. Anywhere he sees God doing something, he knows that God works with men. He will come after relationships. There's a subject that we must all learn to teach. We developed a course and later developed courses around it. We called it Matters of the Heart. It's heart management. No matter where, even if they drop you in heaven, in the midst of revival, some people will be like Lucifer, criticizing everything. And it's always a reflection of the sickness in their soul. When they come, they pose like they are saints. Meanwhile, they are in bondage to a lot of issues. Anytime you see people, instead of operating by the law of the new covenant, the law of love, they are either operating in, they are always the fault finder, they are sick people. I don't care if they're a minister or not. It's one of the ways you know some assesses spiritual health. Sub is division. Division. Please put up Romans chapter 16. So you see, in building a church, in building God's kingdom, in building a movement, there are certain people you must warn and train your people against. That's how it is in the Bible. Mark those, go down to that verse. Mark those who cause divisions among you, contrary to the doctrines that we've given you, and avoid them. All apostles did this. This is Paul now. Go down, you will see it. All apostles did that. And you are no wiser than them. The reason is that you can be focusing on the move of God and ignore the fact that we have an enemy. And there are 5 major enemies of revival. One of them is these relationship issues. You forget, when he attacks here, it's not working. One of the areas usually from where he stops movement, he starts attacking relationships. And it's not everything that you heal. There are certain people, scripture says you should avoid. Disconnect. Look at this group. I beseech you, brethren, mark them that cause divisions and offenses. God did not try to call reconciliation meeting with Lucifer. There are people you don't save. Get them out of that place. You don't want the devil to leave you, then we cast you and the devil out. So that we can save other people who want to leave. And that's what they did with Lucifer in heaven. You can't love better than love God. So that's why we say you must discern between your Peter. There are people who deny, make mistakes, but they are good people. They are just responding to the pressure Satan has brought at that moment. But then you must know who the Absalom is. That man that led the rebellion in heaven is an Absalom. Lucifer. Jesus said, everybody you gave me, I kept. I protected them. Except one person is the son of perdition. That's the earthly Absalom. Mark them that cause divisions and offenses, contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them. Actually, you see what we're saying? Instead of helping to build by putting super glue, helping to maintain unity in the body, they go to those places where you put cement and they are breaking it. And that's what is going to cause the building to fall. And a lot of lives will be hurt. Nothing damages people like church crisis. In the family, nothing damages children like divorce. But I've seen places where they were divorced and the children were not damaged because they separated like Abraham and Lot. We are brothers. We're not going to fight. And we also have children among us, and we are co-parents. And they made up their mind. I'm not going to destroy the image of this woman before the children, even if there were things. He kept it. I'm not going to destroy the image of this before these children. And because of that, the children turned out well. One of the reasons the Bible said God hates divorce is because it destroys the capacity of families to produce godly children. If you go to that Malachi, it said God is desiring of godly children out of. It is you, Christian family, that should give us the next Billy Graham, the next Pastor David, the next Daddy Wampa, the next, transformational president that Nigeria will have, governors, and all of that. Because that's what we are raising in our home. Davids, Josiahs. But that thing robs God of the capacity. It introduces all sorts of crises, all sorts of problems. In many cases, Satan end up having children that were born for God. So just because two people were being selfish. There are other reasons why God hates divorce. He said he hates divorce. Because this generation is now selling it to you guys, especially here in Lagos. It's now easy. Anyhow, walk out, pack your... And they are on social media re-educating you. The only time you do amputation, divorce is marital amputation. The only time you do it is when keeping that part of the body will kill the whole body. Jesus said, if your right eye would now send it to hell, instead of destroying the whole body, that's when doctors can cut it off. So, for example, a leg has developed gangrene, and if you keep it, it's decaying, the whole person will die. Then, at that moment, it's because we can't find another way. We must have tried treatments we didn't find. Divorce is not something you should. And after it, both parties will carry the wound for life. So it's when life is being threatened. This issue has reached a point where staying here, I might lose my life. At that moment, it's better to stay alive than to be in marriage. And what the scripture recommends is separation, not divorce. Separation first. Stay away 6 months to 1 year. Let's see if your heads can clear, if you can now gain back perspectives. And if you're ever going to come back, don't rush back. Let there be people from both sides that will come together. And at this moment, you negotiate covenant. These are the two things that put it down on paper. Then the other one will say, this is what is driving me crazy. They put it down. Because usually you think it's one side. And then after that, they come together. In many cases, that marriage moves to a mature stage. That relationship. Then if, for any reason, that life-threatening thing comes up again, then at that stage, don't just make covenant any day you wake up, you walk away, pack your bag, find another man. You don't know God. So you see one thing about God's system. It's the best. Because go and see the ones that have jumped out jumping, and when they jump in, they find out, oh, what I was running away from is here again. But life-threatening situations, sometimes it's violence. Violence. You don't stay there and die, oh. Say you are keeping covenant. You are not keeping covenant. You are being stupid. Go to your father's house. He has to come and pay a second dowry after he has. Yes. And in some cases, it's the woman threatening. Yeah. You need to run first. You will try because, but if you know, you need to run first. Get to safety, then we can call for truth somewhere. Just bow down your heads. Just pray a little. Ask him to give you understanding of covenant. How to be a strong team player. A strong team player.